I want to kind of hear your opinion and the chat's opinion on what they think about Suzuki compared to Stutzle, because it was very, one-sided. It was kind of Ryan against the world there, thinking that Suzuki is better than Stutzle, long term and this season.
I think Stutzle is younger, right? Am I right about that?
Yes. He's definitely a year or two younger. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 23. I think Suzuki's 25 this year. So I would say that it would be fair to say that long term Stutzle is like in an advantageous position because Stutzle entered the NHL younger, was a higher point producer younger. However, as of right now in this moment, if I were to choose one player to compete for a Stanley Cup, and I like Tim Stutzle a lot, but he hasn't been the same guy offensively that he was in 22-23 for a couple of years now. He's better this year than he was last year, but not crazy level of goals. So like I don't know if he's going to get back to that 39 goal season again. If he's just a 20 to 25 goal scorer, then I think he's very much in the wheelhouse of Nick Suzuki on the offensive side. And frankly, Suzuki's bona fides the last 2 years are better. Suzuki from last season through this season, let's see, I'm just counting this out. I think they show what 20 spaces here. So among all forwards in the NHL, Suzuki is 18th in goals above replacement over the last 2 years, which is crazy. He's right below Jason Robertson, right below Jack Eichel. Like he's in the same range as Jesper Bratt, Alexander Barkov. So like Suzuki, I think the big issue with him is that early on in his career, he could do offense or he could do shutdown defense, but he couldn't do both at the same time. And I think a lot of folks still see him as that guy, except for now, for the last 2 seasons, he's like flirting with a point per game and also putting up Selkie level defense in an excruciatingly taxing role with the Montreal Canadiens. So I don't know. Like, I think it's tighter than Ottawa Senators fans would want to admit. But Nick Suzuki has really taken serious steps over the last couple of years, and he is fantastic. Like he is a hell of a player. I think any team in the NHL would be extraordinarily happy to have Nick Suzuki. And also he's the captain. Like he handles the Montreal market. I feel like that's something that can't really be underestimated. It the pressure level is just way different in Montreal. And to be the captain at such a young age and not just not miss a step, but to get better, it's really impressive. So I don't know. I think right now I would give it to Suzuki, but long term, I would not be making a choice at this moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's kind of what Ryan, my third, was talking about. Until we pose this, I'll pose you the same question, and I'll pose it to the rest of the chat. It kind of was like, okay, yes, yes, all very. I agree. Suzuki's been really good this last 2 years. He's putting up really good numbers. He's very good two-way. But I just asked him point blank. Would you trade if you were the Habs GM and you had the offer for Suzuki for Stutzel? Would you take it? He folded like a cheap suit and said, "Yeah, I'd make that trade like tomorrow." Thinking long term, thinking this and that. So I ask the chat. I ask you, would you trade Nick Suzuki for Tim Stutzel one for one if given the opportunity?
I may get flamed for this, especially from Senators fans. I would not. I would not. I like Suzuki's contract. I don't think it can be underestimated or overestimated the fact that he's a captain at his age in Montreal. And Tim Stutzle, as much as like I like the guy, I really like the way he plays. I think in terms of like what he's able to accomplish in terms of playmaking, there are very few players in the league who can do what he can do. And as much as I make fun of the diving, that wins games, man. Like he draws penalties and it wins games. I really like Tim Stutzle, but I would not trade Nick Suzuki for him right now. Just the gap in defensive quality is too big, and the gap in offensive quality is not large. So I don't know. I couldn't do it. I couldn't trade Nick Suzuki, the captain of the Montreal Canadiens, for Tim Stutzle because there's just not as much to be gained as what you would lose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Ryan, if you're listening, you got I think it sounds like you got some support here, which is nice because you didn't have it much during the week, but I think there's a lot of good points made. And I do like I'm kind of indifferent now on the topic. I think they're both exceptional hockey players. I
They
think
are.
right now Nick Suzuki's been better the last 2 years. I still don't think we've seen anywhere close to Tim Stutzle's best.
Fair.
Even Brady Kachuk's been off, this season. So I'm kind of like in Ottawa, still kind of a good young team as well. So I'm kind of very curious to see, not just Suzuki and Montreal, but also in Ottawa, seeing what those players, what they're going to become. Because you really don't know. It's kind of a gamble because it kind of could go one way or the other. I guess how elite, how highly talented, how much it's gonna show out on the ice. Like you said, Stutzel's only 23, very young. Suzuki's 25. We still don't know exactly all that we have, but it's very impressive. Suzuki's a young captain, kind of excelling in the National Hockey League. So totally get why you wouldn't make the trade. Um, and yeah, I think a lot of your Habs fans here agree with you, no doubt.
Yeah, it seems like the emotion is strong for Nick Suzuki, which I get. I feel like having watched this rebuild and watching Suzuki gut through it all too, it would be such a gut punch to have him go through all of that and be the guy who never missed a game during COVID, even when the Canadians had like 14 players one game that they iced against Florida, and he's always the guy. He's always the first choice for like every situation to trade him right before you're actually descending towards the playoffs. That'd be a tough one emotionally, I think, for all of us. All right.
Your hypotheticals, yeah, all good.
Yeah, it is hypotheticals. It's fun. It's fun to do that kind of stuff
Yeah.
sometimes. And you figure out how much you value a player, right? Because Tim Stutzle is a damn good player. Our Game Over Ottawa folks are probably going to be in here and yelling at us later, but that's okay.